Yo. It's Grapsody with Will, Phil, and Reg, trying to keep it real instead of what you usually get from these talking heads. It's Grapsody, we're here to fill the void. 3 black fans, different perspective, got to fill your voice. Coming with the podcast, talking majors, indies in between. Yeah, it's all that, and we're down with Fightful, better fall back. Coming for respect, we connect like a ball bat. No need to double check, these are all facts. You're listening to us talk raps. You're listening to us talk raps. Will, Phil, and Reg. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps. Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk raps.
Yeah, we're Grapsody, here to talk graps. And welcome to another brand new edition of Grapsody. I am Will Washington, alongside Philip Lindsey.
I'm here, I guess.
Yeah, frustrated as hell, Philip Lindsey, but Philip Lindsey nonetheless. And also here, reporting live from the beach, it's Righteous Reg.
It's your boy, Media Man, your favorite rapper, your favorite writer, your favorite podcaster on quote-unquote vacation, living life at the beach. So, yeah, it's a great way to start a Saturday. I was on the beach at 7 a.m., seeing seals flipping in the ocean, foggy. Great scene. I loved it. We're starting out pretty hot here.
Yeah, we are. I don't know. It's Saturday. And being Saturday, and it's being Grapsody Day, don't forget, folks, leave us a thumbs up. Leave us a super chat. And we love reading the super chats. They help support what we do here at Grapsody. And we're going to keep reading them. YouTube.com/Fightful is the way to get those in. Such as, and we got a few already because I want to give a shout out to Brent Lockman saying happy belated Grapsiversary. Gentlemen, Dynamite here in Toronto this week. Excited to see what Swerve can pull out of Billy Gunn. A sentence I never thought I would ever say, let alone think. 2022 has been wild. It's very true. I think you guys are in for some surprises in Toronto.
There's some treats.
Yeah, and not even close to what you might be thinking, but
I just think it's super funny that D-Generation X is having a reunion on Monday, and on Wednesday Swerve is wrestling Billy Gunn. That's just hilarious.
Hilarious,
to me.
Yeah. Swerve cut that great promo last night, but can I tell you guys just how sick of DX reunions I am?
They keep having them, dude.
I just don't care.
And I'm a big DX fan, and I agree, man. It's a lot.
I just feel like every year the legend of what DX was grows, and it gets more and more annoying every year.
Mm-hmm. You know what bugs me is that they were headed a good direction with the Authority, and what I heard over the years was that that Punk's departure kind of threw a wrench in where things were headed when the Authority was coming into play back in late 2013, early 2014. I'm not exactly sure why. They could have kept going with it. But the idea that all of DX kind of grew up and sold out was kind of supposed to be a little bit of the story there. That remember the New Age Outlaws turned on CM Punk and but then were like dropped. But they had turned on Punk and were like aligning with Hunter and the Authority. And that was kind of supposed to be the story there, was that the New Age Outlaws are sellouts. Shawn Michaels helped Triple H screw over Bryan in Hell in a Cell. Hunter himself was running the Authority. And like ultimately, all of these rebels of the 90s were suddenly now corporate stooges of the 2000 or the 2010s, and that was kind of supposed to be the story there.
Oh, you mean like real life?
Yes, but that's the funny thing too, is that that's what I was going with. Kind of full circle though, is that while the storyline didn't exactly play out that way, because they ended up like kind of abandoning ship on corporate DX and ended up going with the Evolution reunion. Because the Batista face run also wasn't working out, so they just kind of shifted. But the funny thing is, that's really what happened. That they actually all did get corporate jobs. Everybody who's coming out on Monday, except for X-Pac, has a corporate position in the company. So,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's just not cool anymore, man. It's not cool to still do all of the hand gestures and all of the crotch chopping. No, you guys are old. It's not. No, it's over. Let it go.
Yeah,
you guys are not cool. Rebellious 20-somethings anymore. It's dead.
But like I said, I think that would have been a good story to tell in 2014
Right.
Because the idea, I think what they were supposed to be going for was kind of trying to tell the story that DX is now the anti-establishment. DX is now the establishment, and CM Punk is now the anti-establishment, and him going up challenging because he was supposed to face Hunter that year, and at Mania, and so like the story being that Punk is now the anti-establishment guy would have been kind of a cool story, challenging the establishment DX. I think that there. It is kind of funny though that hey, they warned us. They warned us in 1999 that they were taking over. It just took them 20 years to.
They
actually
really did it. They actually did it. They faked the WCW takeover outside thing, and they really took over the WWE. That's hilarious.
Hey, October 28th, I think it was. No, that was October 28th SmackDown, right? Damn it, I have to look this up to be sure, but October 28th, 1999 was a Thursday, right? Yes. Yeah. So October 28th, 99, DX cut a promo in the middle of the ring, and Hunter said, "We've got 3 words for you. We're taking over." And hey, look, here we are.
Vince was like, "That's funny. That's funny. That's funny who they're saying that to." And they were talking to him. They're like, "No, they're talking to you, bro. They're about to take your job."
Then they did it. It just took a few decades. But so I had some fun last night. And by the way, humperchats.com. Don't forget Humper Chats. Send us your Humper Chats. We can bring those up on the screen. You can send those up anytime throughout the week, really. But closer to the show usually helps. But definitely send those along. We get a bigger cut of those. But we love your super chats as well. Anything you want to send to help support Grapsody, we are in like Flynn. But so last night I actually went to an indie show last night. I actually missed all of the wrestling last night. I saw a couple of shows, but I went to Lucha.
Miss the wrestling to go to wrestling, baby. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I went to Lucha Libre Laughs last night, and I had some fun. It was a lot of fun. And for those who don't know Lucha Libre Laughs, it is a combination of pro wrestling and stand-up comedy. And between your matches, you get comedians. And so it's a interesting mix of people who were there to see comedy and who were there to see pro wrestling, because the comedians weren't wrestling adjacent comedians. They were there just doing their sets. A couple were making jokes about the wrestling they saw, but for the most part it was just like 2 different audiences, but it was sold out. It was a sold out crowd. I thought,
was it adults only?
Yes, and it probably it was one, because like Billy was asking me, he's like, "Can I go?" And I'm like, I don't know, this isn't really like a thing. But I would say it was mostly sold out over the fact that the main event was Royce Isaacs one-on-one with Minoru Suzuki, and
Suzuki being wherever that was is just hilarious to think about. Their stand-up comedians, and then right after, it's one of the baddest Japanese wrestlers of all time to slap somebody really hard. I'm sure that got over pretty well with the stand-up crowd.
Oh, for sure. No, honestly, I would say the most over person of the night was obviously Minoru Suzuki. I think he was literally the marquee name. You pulled up at the Oriental Theater, it was literally like the name on the marquee is Minoru Suzuki. You didn't even have to put anybody else up there, and it was sold out just kind of on his name. But Brian Keith, he pretty much had everybody going, and I took a friend to this show who had never been to a wrestling show, period. So now I've played it differently for various friends. I've taken a friend to a SmackDown for their first show. I've taken a friend to Dynamite for their first show. But this was the first time that somebody who was interested in possibly checking out professional wrestling, I dragged them to an indie show. And I was like, just so you know, this isn't going to be like anything you've ever seen. Promise that anything you've seen on TV, anything along those lines, this is not that. But you're going to have fun if you're interested in having fun in pro wrestling. And I will say, of all of my non-wrestling friends I've ever dragged with me, this was the most into professional wrestling I've ever seen somebody get. And the indie environment will do that. And so
Definitely.
it was
It's
really
very
fun.
inclusive, as crazy as that sounds. Like you always, like if you go to an indie show, you're gonna get involved at some point
absolutely.
doing something, you know?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had the opportunity to sit front row, and I was like, you know what? You're not ready for that, I don't think.
No way. Not at all.
You know what? Maybe next time if you decide to do this again, and they absolutely do want to do this again. They were announcing the next dates for, I think it's November 25th. How are we coming in November 25th? I said, I guess we are, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, so it was fun. It was a fun time, and just getting to, I don't know. It was a good night. It was a really good night. Like, I was checking in on various things throughout the night. And I was checking in on my phone. I watched SmackDown up until I basically pretty much had to hit the road. And then I was checking in on Rampage and Battle of the Belts on my phone. I didn't get to see any of Bound for Glory, but I know that you guys have at least seen some stuff, right? Anybody?
Hey, I watched it.
Yeah,
let's move on already. I already want to move on.
Yeah,
we got to talk about stuff. We have to talk about stuff.
Very, very mixed bag of a show.
Yeah.
See, this is my problem with Impact Wrestling. Every time I'm like, hey, you guys watch this show, everybody gets excited for them to have a big show. They always just book it so wild. It never fails. They've never had a show and it's just like everything went off without a hitch. It's always like some one thing that's going to get people out of there. And they did a few of them last night.
Well, let's finish up with the super chats, and I want to get into that. Deontay says, "Happy 1 year, y'all. Have made my life easy on hard and long days. 16 hours of wrestling this weekend. 8 already done. 8 more to go. Start them on Monday. Go Mina Shirakawa and Tom Nakano. Much love, boys."
Appreciate that, Deontay. Wrestling this weekend is, oh my God, it's an insane amount of wrestling. I don't know how these weekends keep happening, but every wrestling company that you know in the world is throwing a show this weekend. So.
Marcus Thomas says, Sammy and Poole versus Andrade and Draymond at Full Gear. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Joker says, what would you do with Private Party? For me, I don't know how they aren't on a heel faction with Swerve. Seems like easy money. Does it? I don't know. I feel like Swerve's got to fly a little bit solo. I think he probably could at some point, once he is a little more established as a singles guy, probably benefit from having some henchmen. I don't know if they're the right ones, but
Private Party needs to get away from everybody. They need to be alone. They need to stop having friends. I'm tired of them being locked into these dumb contract, blah, blah, blah. Let these guys fly, put them in the ring with all the other great tag teams, and that's it. They don't need to be attached to anybody anymore.
Yeah. I think the Leo stuff really threw a monkey wrench in everything, because that was the trio I wanted. It should have been Private Party and Leo. And once Leo was gone, it's like, okay, now they're still stuck with this HFO thing or Andrade or FO or whatever the hell it is now. Get them out of that group and just let them be a tag team.
That's it.
So speaking of which, Leo's clear.
Leo is cleared. Back at it. Going to be wrestling in the UK already. Booked some dates. Going to be wrestling in some New Japan dates, I think. Lots going to be going on. I'm excited to see Leo rush back. Shout out to the guy. Shout out to ACH. I don't know if we shout out ACH a couple times on here, but he retired recently. Oh, yeah, I think we talked about it maybe on Ask.
I hope ACH is okay. Some of those posts I saw don't look the best, so I hope the guy's okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Oscar Rosales says, "Hey guys, I got to see the AEW shows in person, and my favorite thing was Tupac defending his titles back-to-back on the same night. If he loses to OC next week, I don't care. I can die happy. Also, would those 2 defenses now make him 4-pack? No, it's a 2-pack is him having the 2 titles. But he is defending the title this Wednesday. I think he's going to lose it this Wednesday. That's okay. It's time for Orange Cassidy to get some gold. He's been with the company a long time, and being a day one guy, he is he's gonna
Yeah.
probably walk away with some gold.
Right.
Shout out Ice Cold Brandon says, Grapsody gentlemen kept the amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
And Mr. D-Lo Diggs, shout out D-Lo, says, super fellas and y'all, and yeah, saw Bound for Glory after match 1, immediately turned it off. But I guess Bayley for world champ. Also, Leo versus Fatu gonna slap hard.
Oh, that match too. Yeah, Leo versus Fatu. I think that's in MLW. Shout out to MLW.
Yeah.
And Brian says, correct me if I'm wrong, but no titles changed at the last Battle of the Belts either. Kind of makes BOTB feel a little pointless IMO. I think they had strong intentions for them initially, but I think like this week with them no longer being live, because the first 2 were live. And so the first 2, they were able to do title changes at them. And then the second most recent one was taped. And being taped, I don't think they necessarily wanted to. Or I guess the second one was taped too, because we knew going into it. I don't know. I know the first one was live for sure, so that one, like, they wanted to get the title change out of the way. They were going to have Cody on that show, and like there was a lot of stuff that was going to happen, and it just ended up not happening. I think the intentions for them were bigger than they ended up being, and now that they kind of ended up where they are now, I think they're just like. But they said they're continuing next year, so it's not a thing that's going to stop.
Yeah, it's essentially just a house show. That's what it is. It's a house show with 3 title matches on it. And I mean, the title matches were good last night. It just, I don't know. I think anybody going into it to go, oh, this is going to change everything. Nah, probably not do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, speaking of AEW, by the way, Jon Moxley signed for 5 years. That is a big deal. There's a lot of details coming out of this story. The biggest detail being that wasn't reported by in the AEW piece of it. So AEW sent out a press release. Somehow I was the first one to post it. I literally looked at my smartwatch and I got a little notification that said AEW media release, and I went, oh, okay. And normally, like, I get those all the time. I won't post them if like everybody else in wrestling media's already posted them. So I jumped to Twitter immediately and I was like, Jon Moxley 5 year, and nobody had posted it yet. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm posting this. And so I did. And so Jon Moxley signed for 5 years. He is signed until 2027. The way I put that into perspective after that on Twitter was Moxley's whole run as Dean Ambrose was only it was less than 6.5 years. So he'll have at least been with AEW 8 years by the time this is all done. Like, this is the
He's an AEW guy.
Well, it's funny. Somebody compared it to like Kurt Angle, right? That like Kurt Angle, the majority of his career was spent in Impact. It was, he did get established in WWE, but the majority of that run of his career was as an Impact wrestler. But I think that, Kurt Angle didn't have to change his name. Like, Moxley's whole identity as a solo guy is ultimately going to end up being Moxley. Like, if I were him, even if I eventually did take some kind of WWE deal down the line, like, Kevin Nash that shit, right? Like, Kevin Nash, after Kevin Nash was like, I'm Kevin Nash. You're not signing Diesel again. I'm Kevin Nash. You induct me into the Hall of Fame. They tried to induct Diesel. Remember that when he went into the Hall of Fame, they initially announced it as Diesel, and then they had to correct it after that, and were like, okay, Kevin Nash is going into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Scott Hall was willing to accept an induction as Razor Ramon. Kevin Nash was not willing to accept it as Diesel. He's like, no, I made a name for myself outside of Diesel. You're not. You might as well induct Vinny Vegas if you're going to do that, because I am being inducted as Kevin Nash. And that was a cool thing, right? And I feel like Jon Moxley, like, kind of same deal, right? Of like, I'm Jon Moxley.
He's
I've
Moxley.
been Jon Moxley.
He's Mox.
I'm Mox. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do going forward. There's some other cool stuff about that story that'll eventually be out. But for now, I do want to talk about the fact that he was working out of contract for quite some time.
That's crazy.
I hear that WWE was like in pursuit, that they knew he was out of contract.
So all his championship shit out of contract, pretty much.
Out of
Everything that's
contract.
happened recently,
He very
out
well,
of contract.
He very well could have simply jumped over. There was nothing stopping him. He wouldn't have had a non-compete. Jon Moxley was out of contract for at least a couple months here. And I've been thinking about that because of the fact that I'm pretty sure he was signed to a little over a 3-year deal. The AEW launched in 2019.
Yep.
So what are we doing here?
I was there when he debuted in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so, the talk Sean heard was that AEW was fairly confident. They were pretty much under no impression that John was looking to leave. I think John had given them some pretty good security in the fact that he's like, I'm willing to stay here and negotiate a deal. But he was pretty much on a handshake deal, like Cody, that he's willing to stay and negotiate a new deal. He's not interested in working for WWE again. And so let's figure this out. I will continue to work. That's how John does. John's pretty much always been a stand-up guy. He's always been a stand-up guy. You look at the end of his WWE run and how he did everything he was supposed to do. He even worked an extension on that contract that he was working, but ultimately, he's like, I'll stay till the end. I will absolutely do every single thing you ask me to do, but I'm still doing what I'm going to do. And
this is very interesting that they announced this the day before. There's a very big match happening tonight. Game Changer Wrestling. The main event of that show is Nick Gage putting his career on the line against the GCW World Champion, Jon Moxley. And so there's something in that thing that says exclusivity.
They say he will work exclusively with AEW and AEW partners. So that tells me he will continue to work New Japan.
Right.
It
specifically says New Japan in there, though, right?
Yeah, it says New Japan in there. Right. But GCW. So, tonight.
GCW done.
Well, and I see a lot of GCW fans being really upset saying, could you have not announced this like Sunday?
Right.
I mean, let's be honest though. Did anybody really think Nick Gage was losing once they made it a career versus title match? I don't think he's retiring, so I don't think that's that much of a spoiler, guys.
I might have been convinced by a couple of people that Moxley was going to go over, but I don't think so at all.
Well, the funny thing is, it would be an interesting twist if he still won.
I know, right?
I don't know. But the word going around was that GCW was blindsided by this announcement, that they didn't know what was going on here. But that's the things I've heard today were that WWE was very interested in having him back, and that of course they are. Look, they're still running with Shield stuff. They would absolutely love to be able to add the missing piece to this story. It's referenced still extremely often as far as Seth is concerned, as far as Roman is concerned. It's referenced very often, but the fact is, he's going to be in a coaching role now, so that's actually really cool. And
this is great for everybody.
It's great for everybody.
I don't see him ever going back to WWE in a full-time capacity. I think he may go back there and get his flowers, get his Hall of Fame induction and stuff, but I don't think he'll ever go back there and wrestle full-time. No. I just never see it happening.
We might see one of these things like they're about to do with DX for the Shield in 10 years, like Shield reunion. Come watch it in Brooklyn, but nothing full-time.
Maybe, but I can see him doing appearances, but just going back to the wrestle, I don't see that ever happening.
I mean, what's interesting, I don't think he anticipated this, but when he originally signed, but AEW is his company, and I don't think anybody saw that coming. When AEW first launched, I remember all of the speculation of, could Jon Moxley end up here? Because AEW was announced January 1st, 2019, and Jon Moxley, of course, at the Royal Rumble that year, announced that he was leaving WWE. And he stayed past WrestleMania, but he announced that he informed WWE, and the WWE was like, well, we're going to announce this publicly. And they had just put out a public statement saying Dean Ambrose, Jonathan Good, has informed us of his intent to depart following his contract. And so the speculation began immediately, January of 2019. Is he going to AEW? And most it was like, is he going to AEW? I don't think anybody ever saw it as, would he end up being the guy for the company? But when you think about it, Double or Nothing ends with Jon Moxley. Like, that is the
That
closing
set the
shot.
stage right there. Like, everybody was
closing
so
shot.
hyped that it was lit from then.
Yeah, it's still one of the greatest debuts in the history of the company. I mean, we're only talking about 3 years of history, but still, it's one of the greatest debuts ever.
Yeah, but the closing shot of the first show is Jon Moxley, and that pretty much set the stage that going forward for pretty much the remainder of this company, as it seems, as of right now, it's Jon Moxley's company.
It's crazy because there was Kenny and there was Cody and there was Jericho, and most people thought it would be one of those guys, and like, nope, it's Mox. Mox came through and carried the company on his fucking back for so long, got them out of every predicament they could ever be in. He was the guy to go to. Yeah, it's his company, man.
Yeah, the greatest world champion in the history of the company as well. I mean, when they put out their version of the press release and it had the picture of him with the title and the sunglasses, I'm like, he's the guy. He's the face of the company.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting too because it's funny. After that first reign, I initially said to myself, "Do I see him getting a second reign? Like, I think he deserves it, but I don't know." Now I'm like, when he's done, is he just going to be like a 10-time champion?
Yeah, I could definitely see him getting more.
He's always going to be in the mix. He's never not going to be in the mix.
Now I'm not worried about whether or not he's ever going to get another title. He'll lose to MJF, but we know that at some point Mox is going to get it back. And so good for him. I'm happy for him. And so he is signed with the company until 2027. That is official. And company's very proud of that. They're proud to have him. I know after the week that they've had, they needed some good news because of the fact that on Wednesday, it all really started Monday. And I can tell you, talking to people in the locker room, they are very, very not happy about any of the stuff that took place, mainly because they thought they were making strides for weeks since All Out and like helping dispel the idea that there's turmoil in the locker room. That Punk and the Elite had their issues, but they're all at home and everybody's kind of doing well right now. And then all of a sudden, starts with Andrade doing this interview. And then Sammy responds on Twitter. And I said on Day After Dynamite, Sammy, if that interview was in Spanish, barely anybody knew about it.
Yep.
Had nobody drawn attention to it, probably just would have gone.
It flew under the radar.
Yeah.
For
sure. It would have blown in the wind. And instead, a whole lot of attention was drawn to it. Like, I asked Denise because she did a transcript of it on her Twitter, because Denise speaks Spanish, so that is helpful. But I asked her, I said, would you have even gone to seek out that interview had all the Sammy stuff not happened? Would you have even opened it to see what was said? And she's like, well, I listened to that stuff anyway, but probably wouldn't have. But it probably wouldn't have been as noteworthy to drop the translations on it. Because, like, the interesting part about it is in the interview, Andrade is asked about, any turmoil backstage. And at first he's like, things are cool. He said there's one guy who, complained like a little girl that, I hit too hard. But other than that, it's been fine. And then a minute later, and he says, like, well, but I'm not going to name names. And then a minute later, he's just like, it's Sammy Guevara.
I still think the funniest part about it is that he just gets like, he names all these people. Like, I've been in the ring with this guy, never heard this. He was like, even The Miz, I was like, yo. Even The Miz never complained about striking, and you're complaining about striking. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. And so, but like I said, it was funny that he's like, I won't name names. And he's like, actually, I'm going to name names. And it's Sammy Guevara.
Nah, how you know?
Sammy Guevara.
He said, "I'm about to get into you before you get in your little vlog, boy. I'll let him know." I said, "Sammy Guevara."
because I think it probably would have just ended up being like, subtweeting and shit like that. But then once Sammy felt like he was name dropped, he's like, well, now I gotta respond. And so he jumps on Twitter and just starts talking his shit. And then Andrade.
But don't lie, Sammy. That's like you can go for it, but like he's not a jobber. We all know that.
Calling him a jobber and a favor hire, like
it's crazy.
La Sombra of all people was not going to get hired somewhere. Like, no, we don't believe you, Sammy. Come on. He was going to get hired.
Yeah, come on.
No, I'll say this about Andrade's hiring, and I felt this since day one. I felt this when he signed, was that I felt like when AEW came out of, because he debuted the Wednesday after Double or Nothing, and I felt like Double or Nothing was this show in 2021 where everybody came out of it just feeling like, damn, things are back, we got crowds back, like shit is feeling good, and like we're ready to steamroll forward. And then Andrade debuted, and I remember asking at the time, like, I love Andrade, I love him as a performer, but at the moment, where does he fit? And I feel like that's a question that we've continued to ask his entire run in AEW. Because when he came in, it was like, oh, we're going to put him with Vicky. He had this match with Matt Sydal, but it never really felt like he had any clear direction the way that like CM Punk came in. And it's like, okay, we know what CM Punk's going to do. Punk is going to come in, Darby, Eddie Kingston. If we know MJF is the destination and the world title, we knew there was a plan for CM Punk when he signed. Bryan Danielson, we knew, all right, the question's been asked this whole time, Bryan or Kenny, we are going for that shit immediately. But Andrade was one of those names that came in without a clear direction or clear plan. And so I'll never say like, oh, you're a jobber, you're a favor hire, but I will say that he was kind of hired without necessarily having a place on the roster.
Well, I mean, it seems pretty clear that they were at some point thinking about bringing in Rick and that fell apart. And I wonder how much that changed his trajectory with the company. But yeah, I mean, to say that he was a favor hire is just stupid.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And then like, I feel like there was stuff they probably had in mind for him. And then I think that, because he did have a little brief feud with Cody, and maybe that was the first thing they were going to do. But then then they signed Malachi, and that ended up being what Cody did. And so I don't know what the plan was for Andrade, but it has always felt like he's just kind of been treading water the whole time he's been there.
The funny part about all of this, remember that time when he came out and he picked up both TNT titles, and at that moment it's like, I could see it. I could see him as TNT champion. Yeah, there was a period where Sammy just dragged down that title. I mean, they kept trying to make it work with the heel stuff. It just wasn't working. They kept trying to give a new ploy to it to make it work, and it just never worked. And it just felt like they should have moved on from Sammy a long time ago with the title.
Well, the weird thing is, and of course, Tony talked about this on Swerve City Podcast, was that when Sammy, I think it is a, how do I put this? I think it's a little bit revisionist to say that Sammy wasn't working at all. I think that Sammy was clicking until one particular segment that turned his whole career around. And that was the initial segment where he and Ty in the ring called out Dan Lambert. I feel like that segment was the thing that turned everybody around. I felt like in his second TNT title reign, he was actually having some really good defenses. He had that defense against Andrade and Darby on the go home to Double or Nothing, or not Double or Nothing, Revolution. He had that match at Revolution that was really good. It felt like he was doing a little something. And then they introduced Ty to his on-screen character, and immediately people were like, no.
Nah.
And then,
Nah.
And,
all of the fake Pam supporters were like, "Oh, how dare you! I thought you were a wholesome man that got engaged in El Paso."
that was Houston.
It's hard.
Houston.
It's hard when you build your fan base up on things like being the elite and all these vlogs. So your fans are used to seeing you in that setting, and they're used to seeing you with Pam. So if you introduce that character, introduce something else totally opposite of what you've been living in this real life, you're not going to accept it. You know?
I think it was that Dan Lambert segment that pretty much changed everything as far as, like, obviously he had his hate online from like the Sasha stuff, but I don't think it spilled into the arenas until the Dan Lambert segment, where people were initially just like, get all of these people off of my TV. I don't want to see any of these people.
Yeah, speaking of which, sounds like we won't be seeing Lambert for a minute. He said he's made the decision to step away. Good riddance. Don't need to see him.
Thank you.
So I thought that was like, when he said that, because I know we had talked about the fact that we knew that back in like June. And I was like, I thought it was kind of known that Dan Lambert wasn't like a thing anymore, pretty much since Scorpio's injury. But
yeah, I mean, and he could come back and do it.
I guess it was July. July is when it was.
I don't need to see him in a big capacity for a while. A lot of his stuff just did not work for me.
I didn't like it.
And I do.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do agree that Sammy was working. I mean, 2 years ago, it looked like he was on a trajectory to be one of the biggest stars in the company.
Think about that match Sammy had with MJF. And how people were like, "Oh shit, this was a star-making night for Sammy Guevara." Look, it's not like Sammy winning the TNT title in Rochester when he beat Miro wasn't a big moment. People were really into that. JR had one of his best calls in being an AEW commentator, and Sammy was working. And then, like I said, I do truly feel like it was introducing Ty and trying to make this Ty and Sammy versus Dan Lambert and Paige Van Zant stuff work. Which is funny because that was originally going to be Cody and Brandy versus Dan Lambert.
Oh.
They essentially took on Cody and Brandy's heat. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what happened, because people were feeling that way about Brandy. The way she would get booed, the way they would chant "shut the fuck up" at her, and all of that. And now, essentially, all of that got transferred, and trying to replace the feud, they transferred all of that Cody and Brandy heat to Sammy and Ty.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But again, like I told you guys many times when we talk about these wrestler disputes, guys, like, listen, I know, hey, it looked good. He did his whole engagement on TV. You watched the vlog. He looks like a funny guy, and he looked like he's one of you. But you don't know this guy.
Phil.
You don't know him. It's just what it is. You don't know these guys, and sometimes, that is what it is. People make up their mind who these people are, and you don't know.
I thought I knew him.
Yeah.
How dare you?
He had the greatest matches. He talked to me in an autograph line. No, that doesn't.
A wrestler lied to us? How dare he?
So
that led to, on Wednesday, they met up in person. Well, and it was on site.
Well, so the problem was with all of that, and I talked about this on Day After Dynamite, so I won't do too much rehashing of this. But the fans were definitely kind of misinformed on this issue, but why should they have been informed, right?
Right.
That the fans basically took a side. The fans saw, well, Sammy wasn't punished, Andrade was. There was a confrontation that's going around TMZ, so what's the deal here? And the fans in the building and online very quickly took Andrade's side. I just saw somebody in the chat saying Andrade did nothing wrong. Except on Tuesday, the piece that Meltzer did report, and you guys know, group chat, I had this Wednesday night. Meltzer reported Thursday morning that there was a call that took place, a meeting that took place between talent relations, Tony, and the guys involved here, and everybody in it agreed not to have a confrontation. And so therefore that was supposed to be ground zero. They were all warned of the consequences of if anything happened. And Andrade said, we're cool. We're cool. We're good. Not going to do anything. And so
psych.
And so they were prepared for it. They did have security there. Like, the thing is, the story as it's being told by everybody I've talked to is that there being a fight is greatly exaggerated in the sense that yes, there was a confrontation. There was the way it was described to me was an NBA fight. And that there was some shoving, some flailing arms, and then everybody separated them and sent on their way.
It was like a wrestling when they do the wrestling brawls and the security breaks everybody up. It was just like one of those, pretty much.
They said, yeah, it was like this went on for seconds. This wasn't
wasn't anything at all. Somebody got spun apparently.
Yeah. So that's the reason apparently that it was Andrade that took the heat here was that Andrade apparently waited for Sammy. When he found him, he spun him around, and so basically Andrade was the one that broke what was, I guess, called a truce.
Right.
That it was like, look, you both have matches this week on television. Mm-hmm. Don't fuck up your matches on television. Let's just go. Let's get this done. Let's do this. And they both agreed to no confrontation, to stay their separate ways. And then Andrade was like, you thought.
Yeah. I said it was on site, Tony. That's him right there. I'm about to spin his ass.
And so he did. And so ultimately, Jericho, who was there, was adamant that
Andrade's got to go.
No, not that Andrade's got to go, but that, hey, I saw it. Sammy didn't do anything.
Gotcha.
And so Sammy played his part and kept his hands down like it was.
It's kind of like the same thing he did with Eddie Kingston, pretty much, right? Just like was there in the moment, didn't do anything to like provoke or do anything to be involved, pretty much.
Yeah, because I mean the Eddie Kingston thing, the way it was described by Sammy was that it was he got backstage after cutting that promo in the ring and got pie faced, and. So that was
oh man,
it's got to be crazy because his wife saw both these incidents.
Yo,
like how do you come back from that, man?
Yeah, it does take a lot of humility to get into two situations where people feel like they can test me. Like, yo,
right.
This is the second time somebody felt like they could put hands on me, and I gotta eat it. Like, yeah. I would have been pretty hot about that. Yeah. This I don't know, man. I think everything around it, going into it, made it look like, all right, well, there's a common denominator here. It's Sammy, and so of course, Sammy has also had a track record at this point throughout the year of being involved in stuff. And so people are looking at it like, why is it always you? Why are you always in the midst of this? It makes him look like he's trouble, and whether that's fair or not, that's a perception.
Yeah.
And so
that's how fans are seeing it. Yeah, I agree.
And so I get saying that, he didn't throw hands, so he shouldn't have been punished. But at the same time, like ending the show with him having this triumphant moment where he is like raised on the top of JAS and he's got his hands up, and that's the closing image of Dynamite.
Hilarious.
That was crazy.
The
was
problem
crazy.
with that was that like all of that was written and done before the confrontation even happened. Right. And so, like, they had finalized what's happening here on Dynamite. This is the ending, all of that. And then the confrontation happened, and then it was like, okay, well,
still doing it.
Yeah, we've settled all of this. Like, I get from a creative standpoint, there are very few adjustments you could make there where the story tells the same story, right? Like the story of Jericho looking down on his disappointment in the protege he picked in Daniel Garcia, but his original protege is the guy who came through. You lose so many elements of that if you change one piece of this. And so, like, I get why they stuck with the story because that's the story they were telling. But if you remove anything that happened behind the scenes from context, because, like, the friend that I went to the indie show with, I was like, did you see Dynamite this week? And they were like, no, I haven't seen it yet. And I said, did you hear any of the stuff that happened? Like, stuff? And I said, do me a favor. Go watch Dynamite and then tell me what you think, because I am curious from your perspective what you pick up on and what you take from it. knowing nothing else that's happened because you are fully off the internet. And so I'm waiting on feedback on that. Obviously, not going to get that probably until tomorrow, but I'm curious. But the thing is, without the context, it just comes off like an ending, right? Just like any other show. But with the context, it made it feel like Sammy was rewarded for what took place. And
it
that
definitely felt like he was rewarded. And I mean,
it.
even if you add in the context of Andrade started the fight and he was in the wrong with the altercation, it does look like, all right, if we've had all of these meetings and stuff, and it's like, don't go out there and leak stuff, don't go into business for yourself, don't go on the internet and do stuff. It looks like he didn't even get punished for that. It just looks like he just skated by. And man, it's hard for me to go, that's not a fair assessment, because again, the guy got the pin and he had this big triumphant moment in the night. And so, oh man, I just think that was and I get you couldn't change much, but I think if people think that Tony is protecting Sammy, this does not help that case, because the optic here makes it look like he is.
I was thinking about that, kind of what you said about your friend, though, Will. It's like, if I just watch Dynamite, if I just watched AEW and I don't know any backstage shit, and I've never seen Sammy's vlog, Sammy Guevara is just a wrestler that, I could
People
either
hate.
love him or hate him. That's it. It's not like, if I didn't know anything about him, I really probably would think he's cool, because like when he has matches, he does wild shit. Like most of his matches do something. So I think the perception of him isn't the same for everyone. So like that ending probably wasn't crazy to a lot of people. They're like, oh, Sammy and Jericho have been friends their whole time. Like this all makes sense. So
what I think is funny is this friend started watching after All Out. They've been watching all of a month.
oh my God.
And so what's interesting is they have no context on the Elite. They have no context on CM Punk. They have no context on anything other than MJF is great, Jon Moxley is great, and Jericho Appreciation Society is dastardly. Like, that is their entire perspective and concept of all of this, and they've only been watching on TV and what they see on TV. And so it is really interesting to pick up on just these little things of, you don't know shit, and like, you don't have a perspective on vacant titles or vacant trios title. None of that makes any sense to you whatsoever. This is actually kind of great. And this is the friend, by the way, that I interviewed for that podcast I did, which I'm not sure is ever going to get published now because of the fact that a lot of the audio was unsalvageable.
That sucks.
But
Damn it.
I know. The problem is, like I said, it's the idea of doing taped stuff versus live stuff. Because when you're doing taped, at least you have a chat room there that can tell you, hey, some shit's not working. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, we can't hear anything along those lines. And then, but instead I look up and then I go back and listen to it. And I'm like, God damn it. How long did this happen?
That is the worst. But yeah, I don't know. You know what Sammy kind of reminds me of at this point? We all knew that one guy in school, that he'd be the guy that would start stuff, or he'd be the guy that stayed in trouble a lot, but he would do just enough not to get suspended. Like, he'd be in the midst of a fight, and the fight would start, and because he didn't throw the first punch, or because he didn't initiate it, he didn't get punished. And that's kind of how it feels. It just kind of feels like he's always in the midst of something, and he just does just enough to skate by. And it's crazy. It's crazy to watch. And like I said, just that lasting image of the end of Dynamite, I was just sitting there like, this is nuts. Like, when you look at just this year, and like the Elite are not on TV because they were involved in an altercation, and it's pretty much known at this point the other guys started to fight, and they're still out on TV. Sammy Guevara, though,
Right there.
right up at the end of the show.
He won the big game. Put him up on your shoulders.
Yo,
Yeah, it is crazy times. We are in.
Sammy's just your annoying little brother. That's all it is.
Sammy, yeah, I don't know, man, and I don't want to make this out to be that I don't like Sammy, because I do think Sammy is very talented. The thing that I don't like that people are doing now is that, oh, well, Sammy was always bad. No, this guy can wrestle. It's just that he just has a lot of this bad backstage stuff around him that is just like.
I mean, I truly think about how much the perception truly changed. Sammy has had this year, one of my all-time favorite singles ladder matches ever. That match with Cody was phenomenal. And it was Sammy. Sammy had a phenomenal spot in there. That cutter he hit, one of the best things
That's going to be forever. That's a forever.
And who are the fans booing in that match?
Cody
It
Rhodes.
wasn't Sammy. It was.
But
The fans
that was
were
this
cheering.
year, man. This
That
is
was
crazy.
this year.
I mean, yeah. If you look at the change of this year and a lot of these things, not just the Sammy thing, but I mean, just think of where Punk was at the beginning of the year. Think of where Cody was at the beginning of the year. I mean, even to a lesser degree, look at where Mox was at the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, at one point he was not on television. He was away, and now he's considered one of the candidates for Wrestler of the Year.
So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, in the chat I see questions. They say, how did Sammy instigate? Andrade mentioned in the interview. I mean, so the thing is, like, I don't think Sammy should have responded to anything. I think that the tweets ultimately turned this into a bigger issue. But I do think that, look, once you agreed and told management that nothing was going to happen, and the wrestlers all feel this way. Like I've heard this kind of across.
That's
the board,
just like you know, they're all the boys. You know, it's like you're fucking over the boys essentially. If you're like, we're good, and then you're not good when you get
where like that was supposed to be ground zero. That look, we can't have this. Like we've talked about it now. This is a done deal, and then you go and do it anyway. Somebody in the Day After Dynamite comment said, Will, you know as a parent that if you tell your kids, hey, knock it off, and then they all agree, yes, Dad, and then as soon as you turn around, they like start punching each other again, they're like, that's essentially what happened here. And I'm like, I get that, but this is also your job, right?
Yeah, this is way different.
Like my job, you know, most corporate environments especially have a system in place, right? Where like, look, we're not going to fire you for this specific thing unless we've warned you about it already. Once we have it on the record that we have said something about this, now any violation of what we told you is now, and what you agreed to is now insubordination. You have directly defied something that was ordered by the company at that point, and that's in any job, right? I've had written warnings at my job where it's like, hey, this thing you're doing, you can't do this. Now it's on the record. We're telling you you can't do this. And now if you violate this, you're like, now we have to do something about it. And this is a thing.
And we haven't really talked about the Andrade elephant in the room about him trying to get fired.
And him trying to get fired. And the funny thing is, they told him, what I hear is that he was told, you are not going to be fired for this, but you are going to be sent home, which is probably the worst thing, right? Like, because any outside bookings you take for as an AEW talent, you have to clear with AEW, and
they're gonna tell you no.
You don't even get to take the outside bookings at this stage. You're just gonna sit your ass at home for the remainder of this contract. We'll pay you. You'll get paid, but you're going to sit at home. I don't know if he's coming back. I imagine that anybody who is under contract, nobody wants to pay somebody to sit at home. That's essentially punishment to the
his
company
leverage
too.
is slipping away, though, because they just signed his homeboy, and they're putting the rocket to his homeboy. They're like, well, we got Roosh, so, I mean, have fun out there, big bro.
That's what makes it weird, because it seems like he was happy doing the Roosh stuff. It looks like they were going to go full speed ahead with the Los Ingobernables stuff. And at the same time, you're also hearing that, oh, he's just not happy. And it's like, but it seems like you are.
They're trying to make him happy, or they're trying to help. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's I don't know.
And the other thing, somebody said in the chat, and I can see this. It's a good question. With everything that took place here, now granted, Hunter's going to take back anybody, I'm sure. Yeah. But this is a bad look, right? Like, this isn't necessarily somebody that, it's... We were talking about Moxley before, and part of what Moxley did in both exiting WWE and even working under contract was that he has been a professional 100% of the way, and that when it comes down to it, he has made it so that every company looking at him wants Jon Moxley. Like, you want
Right.
that guy to be in your locker room. You want him because you know he's going to abide by his contract. You know that even if he's out of contract, he's probably going to do some shit for you. Because when he was out of contract in WWE, they were like, hey, can you just stay for 4 more weeks? We got these house shows. Hey, we want to do this Shield show, this one last ride Shield show. Can you stick around for that? And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And like here it was, hey, we know you're out of contract, but we want to make you world champion and like do all of this stuff for Jon Moxley.
Wasn't that last Shield match in Cleveland?
Was it? I think so.
I think it was in Cleveland because I'm just like thinking in my head of Rollins yelling at the crowd, "Last motherfucking time, Cleveland! Last motherfucking time!" And he's like swinging the ropes. I'm like, "Yo, Rollins, chill out."
Yeah. But you know, it was like, it's one of those things where that's the reason why WWE was looking at him. But on the other side of things, you do have Andrade, who, like, I'm sure WWE does want him back, but it is kind of hard to be like, but this is also a dude who, you know, talent relations like talk to,
Right.
and he still went and like did a thing, and
Like, is he gonna listen to us if we bring him over
like-
here? Like, he could fly
like
off
if
the
he's-
handle at any time.
Like, if he finds himself again in a creative position he's not happy with, what happens here? So, like, I can understand that side of it. I like Andrade as a performer, so, like, I ultimately just want to see all these guys just doing stuff.
And he probably will be happier if he's with his wife over there. Like, that's just a thing. Like,
I do think that they will take him back if he wants to go there. I have no doubt about that. I think
they'll take Punk back over there after all this. So
yeah, I don't think this hurts Andrade's stock. I just think that, you know, given some time to let it die down, you know, we'll see where this goes. I did think it was one of those things where I was looking when the report came out that Selena was coming back and they were going to pair her with Legado. I was like, yeah, see, this company played too much, man. You dirty macking to ignite stuff like this, and then at the same time you're showing them, well, we've moved on. Like, I don't know what do you mean we called him? We didn't call him. Look, we've moved on. We've got another luchador stable, and Selena's leading that. Like, we didn't call him. What do you mean? We didn't do nothing.
Hey, I want to read some super chats here. We got Coffee Black says, shout out to the Grapsody homies. I actually convinced some non-wrestling fan friends to watch Extreme Rules with me tonight. Hope it delivers. Hey, getting non-wrestling fans into wrestling is my favorite thing because sometimes you get them to see it through. I mean, you're seeing it through their eyes. I love watching it through their eyes and sitting with them and just kind of absorbing and being like, man, I am definitely a jaded curmudgeon who has been watching this shit for 35 years. And it is nice to see somebody who's just like watching it and appreciating it. Who's just like, yeah, this is cool.
There's nothing attached to it. It's just the matches, just the people in the ring, just the cool costumes. There's not all the bullshit attached to it. Definitely. This is a good show to introduce people to also, because gimmick matches are always kind of a great way to get somebody into pro wrestling. So Extreme Rules is looking pretty hot too. So should be excited.
Yeah. Yes, and Valab, whose name I probably just butchered again, says, we're almost to a year to the day where Reg asked for his $35 back. Still feels like yesterday. Also, Swerve for Player Hater of the Year.
That is Jey Uso by far. Jey Uso is the hater of the year by far.
Hey, but I will say they are both in contention for best facial expressions of 2022.
Yeah, right.
And they are both just like selling shit so well.
They are both big haters, yes.
Brent Lockman says, favorite moment of the week, Regal casually putting Nux on and going to the ring just calmly about to murder someone. The crowd chanting, you fucked up. The moment he put on the Nux and he's just keeping it calm, keeping it cool. It's just great shit.
Is that a greater moment than him telling Excalibur that he can melt in his mouth?
Regal's a damn fool.
Regal's wild.
Carlos Mendez says, why can't they book Mexican luchadors? It's annoying. I think you're specifically referring to AEW, in which case I feel like they're the only ones booking them. Then now you got Phantasma on screen, but like,
are we really comparing though? Because I mean, if we're having a conversation about how well WWE has booked Mexican wrestlers, it's a little shaky.
Not really.
no, I mean, just,
Not real.
I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like right now is definitely, as far as American wrestling is concerned, the least concerned I've been. But of course, you might have a different perspective. But I know, the 2010s was a very frustrating decade for seeing pretty much the booking of a lot of guys like the two Sin Caras and things along those lines. Speaking of which, he did not need to chime in on any of this.
No. Keep it Hunico.
But he did.
Of course.
Yeah. Let's see. Eloquent says, I will say, I never saw the Dan Lambert appeal until I saw him on Dynamite Live. Heat magnet, laughing emoji.
Yeah, I did think he got good heat sometimes, but a lot of it I just didn't like. I thought a lot of the content of his promos just wasn't for me. I got what they were trying to do. I get they were trying to do this like knockoff of
pseudo cornet thing.
Yeah, AEW's kind of biggest critics all molded into this one annoying loudmouth, and it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I think it worked the first week. I don't think you need to be back another one after that.
Right.
It got old really fast.
Yeah, because I was there the first week, and I agree, it did get good heat, and it was a big pop for Lance Archer when he hit him with the hell is the name of his finisher. Come on, you know the finisher. Lance Archer. Everybody in the chat's gonna know.
Sorry,
Terrorizer. I don't know.
The
Terrorizer.
What is it? I don't know.
Come on, chat. You know it.
Terrorizer.
I'm drawing a blank on Blackout. Thank you. Everybody instantly. Blackout. That's so great.
Forgot he worked there.
God damn, my whole screen just says Blackout. Right?
Terrorizer.
Good job, chat. I appreciate you guys.
I think the difference though on the Lambert thing is that I do think he got good heat, but I think when you attached him to guys that didn't need him, that's when it very much got annoying.
I thought Men of the Year were doing so good without him.
They did not need him.
No,
right.
That should have been the time for Ethan Page to really
They were
get
both
over
cutting incredible promos. Like when they would do the backstage things, they would be on fire. And it's like, wait, they don't need this guy. Both of them can talk. What's going on here?
They did not need him. Let's see. Raj says, still sober, hit by COVID hard. Keep doing what you all do, or what all you do, and keep notes. I think in a few years, a Grapsody book would be money. Ooh, okay.
What do you mean by
that? I think of the stories. I think maybe. Let's see. We got this one from Orion Ben 666. He says, other folks say they're about AEW and the Vision. Mox lives it. Congrats to him. Congrats, Renee, on her new Bengals gig. This will continue to be one of WWE's biggest L's. Thanks, Grapsody. I mean, I don't know. WWE's been signing a lot of guys lately, and look, WWE's doing great right now. They're probably going to have a great show. I think pretty much the next 2 days are probably going to be dominated by Bray Wyatt talk.
They are raking the money in, man. They're selling these shows out. They are. They're
fine. And I mean, even on Moxley, I think that they got a good first chapter of his professional career out of him. I think for a lot of people, he'll be known for his Shield stuff. And I mean, I think it's fine to have a guy that's known for one part of his career and having a great second part of his career as well. So I don't think it's really an L for them. I think it's a win for both parties, honestly.
Yeah,
definitely.
And let's see, we've got another from Words with Wills that says, with all the unprofessional issues lately from others and how it was handled, do you feel like Sasha and Naomi deserve an apology from the wrestling community? They deserve an apology from a lot of people.
1,000%.
Because putting belts down and walking out is very different than punching people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking the line. So, yeah, definitely. They've been old apologies from the top of the company that they were in and from a whole bunch of other people, too.
I recall no company, not as far as any of the issues we've heard over the years, the last year, such as, we heard of issues between Becky and Sasha. We heard a lot of stuff. Only people who had their stuff addressed on screen,
right,
called unprofessional. has been Sasha Banks.
Fucking
and
Brock
Naomi.
Lesnar walked, left. They didn't say shit. Like, it's crazy.
Nobody
My
has
man.
had anything said about them on screen except for Sasha and Naomi. Nobody's had a public statement put out. None of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think they're definitely owed an apology.
So
Yeah.
Let's see.
Both are living their
There's-
best lives, though, as always.
Yeah,
Every time I
putting out-
see Sasha, she's like just doing something new and
Doing
incredible.
the modeling, man, getting the headshots out there. Yeah, they're killing it.
Bags.
I do think they'll be back. I see people that keep going. The further we get away, it doesn't look like they're wrestling. No, they're definitely going to wrestle. I saw that post that Sasha put up the other day where she's looking at All Japan matches again. She's looking to get back in the ring. She'll be back.
She'll be
This
back.
is Sasha Banks. She
I
loves
think they'll
wrestling.
be. I think they'll be at Survivor Series. That's my
Yeah.
theory. Is that they
Boston.
Yeah, it's in
course.
Boston.
Makes
Massive pop for
Yeah.
Sasha. And on top of that, she could potentially be in War Games. Oh yeah, she'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Adam says Lambert was an albatross around the neck of every feud he was a part of. Drug everything down and made unwatchable TV segments.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I mean,
I wanted to turn it off when he came on. So
I mean, even the Paige stuff, I thought that Paige was fine. I thought the match she had was good. I thought even some of the segments were fine, but it was just Lambert. I didn't want any of the Lambert stuff.
Well, Grim Spider says, "Sup, guys? Here's to the realest trio in the podcast game. Question for you guys: what's with Paige Van Zandt? Is she still signed? Pretty sure.
Big
she's
match
still
Paige,
signed.
man. She's not coming back unless the match is big enough, man.
yeah, she's definitely still signed, but she she was gonna do the bare knuckle boxing thing, but it got canceled or something. So all those different endeavors, but she'll be back when it's big match time. Hopefully very soon, so
Yeah,
we can
'cause we
hear
wanna
me
hear
get
that.
my shit off. Damn, one time.
Don't get out of pocket. I got
Trying
bodies
to-
dropping. You can catch the fade now. I've heard that so many times. It's funny. Like most fans have only heard like the Paige Van Zandt theme literally one time at the pay-per-view, but like, I mean,
Yeah.
Reg killed it. Like I listen to it all the time.
Doesn't the homie Anthony King do the
Yeah.
hook for that? Shout out to Anthony King.
Shout out to Anthony King. Destroying. it.
Deontay says Sammy is literally Sean Combs. Instigate.
Did you guys see him on Breakfast Club, by the way?
A
No.
little bit, not enough to really get
I've been
into
keeping
it.
up with everything else, but no, I didn't.
So, I was waiting the whole time to see if he was going to address the Mace thing because, of course, Mace
Right.
talked about it on $1 million worth of game, and he's been basically
Mace.
saying it to anybody that'll ask him that, yeah, it's fuck this dude, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so, I was waiting, and he gave some answers that he danced a little bit. I thought one of the funniest parts was when Charlemagne asked him, "Man, how did Carrie should tie with Drink Champs for best podcast of the year?" And he was like, "Did you pay for that?" He was like, "No, she's the best podcast of the year." And then Charlemagne was like, "Yo, she's at 5 episodes, bro. What are you talking about?"
You gotta get his girl on. Gotta let his girl.
Yeah,
get her
I
shit
was
on.
dying, and he kept going like, "No, she deserved it." And I was like, "Come on, dog. Drink
Yeah.
Champs. It should have been Drink Champs, man. Come on,
on.
man." And so, he talks about the Mace stuff, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't have a problem with Mace. I love Mace, and but if he thinks I stole some money for him, I did like one album with him, and then he went away and became like a fake preacher and stole people's money. I'm like, yo, do you love him or not? Like, there's a lot of shade you throw at this guy."
Is it love or not? Love.
And so it was just like he tried to waffle a little bit. He tried to, instigate this thing with Mace, but also go, yo, but it's all love. But man, when Mace came back with his promo with like the
Mace's
grilling,
promo.
Mace was like, nah, ask your mama where that money at.
Yeah, he said.
Out the gate
He said,
with
I
that
asked Big, but he dead. Asked Black Rob, but he dead. Asked Craig Mack, but he's dead. What?
I'm like,
Yeah.
bro been with Eddie Kingston doing promo work over here. I
Yo,
mean,
that was
like,
definitely a
shit.
promo. Yeah, the other thing that I thought was funny that Puff said was like, yeah, people keep acting like they have issues with me over contracts, but there's no truth to that. And I'm like, Puff, there are a
Puff,
lot of guys
come on.
at this point that have come
Everyone
out and
is
said
saying
something
it,
about your
yeah.
business dealings. Like, this isn't just
Everyone
Mace,
is
bro.
saying it.
I don't think Mace is lying about this. I just think that you don't want to do business with the guy. And hey, you have every right to be like, look, I own your publishing. You can't have it back. I make a lot of money off of this.
Right.
Go away. I get it, but to just act like I don't know why this guy's mad. Why would he be mad? Like why he's mad.
just like Irv did with Ashanti's publishing. Like, well, why would she want it back? Like, it's her music, man. What do you mean? Like, everybody wants to have their shit. Like, well, it's mine. Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna be beefing with you every time someone asks me about it. Then how about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, honestly though, it's because I was a big Mace fan. I still think Harlem World is a dope album. There's one track on there that's had me that I've been thinking about this whole time. Everything's been going down. Do you remember that? If niggas want to act, we can act. If niggas want to scrap,
of course.
we can scrap.
Yeah.
If niggas got gas, we got gas. That has been in my head this entire time. That track was so dope, by the way. That was the best track on the album.
Come on, man. What are the top albums of that era, man? Like, come on, man. Jealous Guy? Get out of here.
Ladies, this jealous guy. That was so
man, he owe Mace money, man.
Bro. We gotta talk about how Mace was the hottest act for him at one point. Like, I feel like he was
hot.
I'm sorry, but as the Mariah Carey fan in the room, I'm pretty sure Mace had a line on Honey where he says, I ain't dropped one single and made his money back, which was referring to the fact that Mace, just off of features, had already paid back his contract to Bad Boy.
Yes.
Just off of features before he dropped Harlem World.
Yes. Mace was the guy for Bad Boy at one point. I feel like there was a point where he was the biggest act he had. Like,
definitely
outside of Big, like, it was Mace. Mace was the biggest rapper that label had.
I mean, he brought in Mace to replace Big, and he did it. Shit.
Well, the thing was, I mean, and not even to replace him, because Mace was signed before Big died. Like, Big's in the video for Can't Hold Me Down. Right. Like, that was, and Only You could already see at the time, I'm looking at this in like wrestling perspective, right? But you could kind of see at the time when Only You, the remix dropped, and they moved Biggie's verse to the top of the song, and Mace got to close out the song. You could already see Puff had Mace in his vision of like, this is my guy. This is
about
a
to
guy.
Give him a push.
That I'm about to push, right? Because this is a guy who Mace was only 20 at the time. Ladies love him. He's like, I got a dude here that is gonna make us some money. Like, he is gonna draw for Bad Boy.
You're gonna make me some money, is what he really said.
Yeah. Every time I think about Mace too, I just think about how he starts the verse on the Tell Me What You Want record. He's like, you can hum all you want to, come all you want to. Like, that's a wild way to start the verse.
Well, that was Only You, by the way. But yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Mace, gotta let him know. All right, Mace. Let him know what it's about to be about. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Mace though. I regardless of how this looks and people are like, oh, this is negativity, we don't want to see the beef, I love seeing him active. I love seeing him visible.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mace, honestly. Because the last thing I remember hearing from Mace track-wise is that verse he did on Cruel Summer. What was the name of that track? He has a song on Cruel Summer with Kanye. And,
he does.
Yeah. Where he had that line where he's like, I ran into Loon. He like, well, assalamu alaikum. Like, I don't know. It was a good track. That's the last thing I recall hearing from.
Now he was beefing with Cameron. He put out
I remember the beef with Cameron was, as a matter of fact, wasn't Let Me Know About Mace. Like, that was.
Yes.
So.
Oh man, Cameron tells hilarious stories about Mason. By the way, the story he told him about him on Drink Champs is hilarious.
Man, Brent Lockman says, with Vince gone, are people more likely to actually voice their opinions? As Andrade stepping back into what seems like a powder keg.
I don't know. Well, I mean, that quote from Finn Balor just came out where he said he felt like management is a lot more accessible than they were when Vince was in charge, and it feels like more of a collaborative effort. So maybe, I don't know.
Here's a good question from Tim Gordon, because I think the answer to me it's yes. He says, do you guys see Nigel McGuinness in the new ROH? Yes.
I think you could use him as an ambassador or like a commentator or something.
Definitely.
Yeah. Hell, I think even if he can't get physical, the fact that he is, again, one of the more prolific Ring of Honor world champions, he's probably somebody that Chris Jericho should interact with. He is somebody that
100%.
If what Chris is going for is what's happening, about as much as you can do to have Chris Jericho have
the Pure Championship. He's attached to that too. Like he can play a pretty essential role. Him and Bryan have the matches. Like he plays a very essential role to that feud if they bring him in. So yeah.
So it was very surreal listening to the Seth interview with Ariel, and he was like, he never felt like he was the guy at Ring of Honor because he was like, at the time Nigel was the guy, and I was like, wow,
that's crazy.
That's the thing. Like Nigel was the guy when you were there.
He was.
Shot Kid says, if AEW ever brings Lambert back, just lean into the MMA stuff, drop the Cornette spoof, and have him manage somebody like Filthy Tom Lawler.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I just wouldn't bring him back. You are good right now. There's not a place I see for him right now. Don't.
I'm okay.
I think I'm good too.
WWE is grateful social media wasn't around in the 90s. Of course.
Everybody is.
A lot of people are. I mean, that would have ruined a lot of things that we love.
Hell, I think, honestly, I'm glad podcasts weren't around in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because, in the way that right now there's a lot of old wrestlers who are making a living off of basically trashing today's wrestling. The thing is, old wrestlers from the 70s hated the Attitude Era. Yep. And if they had podcasts to do it, where they get to publicly just trash everything that's happening, essentially, a lot of Attitude Era wrestlers would be fighting uphill battles with those longtime fans who are listening to Bruno Sammartino's podcast talking about this shit sucks. And
Bruno's right. All this Austin 316 shit is stupid.
That's how it would have been back then.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Bruno was vocal, but like he didn't have a platform to be that vocal. So
that was our saving grace. Is like when the legends back then would talk shit, we wouldn't hear about it.
Yeah, and just giving some of their viewpoints on a lot of other things, we need to hear it.
Yeah, we didn't need to.
We didn't need to, but it would have been a thing. And so that's what I try to tell wrestlers who are like the older wrestlers who will go, well, if I do my impersonation, you know who I'm talking about. But you wrestlers today can't take criticism, and it's like, well, it's because nobody was. They were like, we used to take criticism. Nobody was doing the shit publicly. Nobody had podcasts doing that shit. They were telling you backstage.
He's only talking about Dave Meltzer, pretty much.
Oh man, that guy tweeting that there's no story for this match that happened to be an open challenge was one of the funniest things that I saw this week. I was like, yeah, buddy, I don't think there's a story to open challenge. That's kind of why it's an open challenge. But
okay. And look, I'll name names. Like, we're talking about Disco Inferno. And the funny thing about that is that I just happened to recently be watching an episode of Nitro because I was watching the build up to Starrcade, where he just happened to have what's mostly referred to as like the only like good match of his career with Yuji Nagata. How built up was this match with Yuji Nagata?
No way. Yeah, nobody
a
cared
match where
about
he
this.
faced Yuji Nagata on Nitro for the television title.
They announced they heard about that match when the music was hitting. Like they didn't announce it last week.
Yeah.
They were like, Disco Inferno has a match. Hopefully it goes well, and it went all right.
I've never seen this before, but somebody in our chat spelled his name like Cisco. They spelled it Disquo, and from now on, that's how I'm gonna say his name, Disco.
Disco.
Dream Ninja says Sasha loves wrestling.
She'll be back, man. She's gonna wrestle again.
She really does.
But specifically, I wouldn't be mad at a match with Julia before coming back to WWE. Both Sasha and Naomi are also going to need to be paid. They're going to get paid. Yeah. Absolutely get paid.
I would love for her to go on a run and do all of this cool Joshi wrestling matchups and all this indie wrestling stuff, but I really feel like she's going to go back.
Yeah, it's not in the cards, I think. Yeah, they can't afford it. Come on,
I think she's going back.
She's on Starwood, The Mandalorian. She ain't about to be in no BFW hall no more. You guys, come on.
Side note, by the way, speaking of shows on Disney Plus, I have to say, I enjoyed She-Hulk greatly this week. Fuck all the hate that the show is getting because it's a great show. It's fun. Who could hate this? Like, I don't know. I'm
Single female lawyer having lots of sex.
Look,
I love it.
I guess spoilers. I mean, mild spoiler that like you've seen all the images on social media. Daredevil is in this show, in this episode, and Daredevil, of course, on his own it's a dark and gritty show. He shows up in She-Hulk, which is much more lighthearted and comedic. So of course he's gonna be a little more on the lighthearted and comedic side. And I see people who are like, "Oh, they're ruining Daredevil," and it's like, look, it's not like she showed up on his show and turned the show comedic. He showed up here and was more comedic in his elements.
Nerds always think somebody ruining something. Like, get over it, dude.
And look, as far as the sex is concerned, Daredevil has gotten around. Like,
that's his whole character in the comics, is that he's like had sex with numerous women and ruined their lives.
Yes, and so look, as far as you knew from the beginning, the moment these two made eye contact in the episode, and you're like, I was rooting for it. I'm like, oh, She-Hulk is gonna fuck Daredevil. This is great.
She-Hulk is gonna fuck Daredevil. It's not a sentence I ever thought I would hear on Grapsody, but here we are, baby.
Emilio tweeting out, "Why are people mad at Daredevil for getting some of those green cheeks?" was hilarious.
And then T responded with, he was like, "How do you know they were green cheeks?" And he was like, "She was human form when they went in the bedroom." And I was like, "Look, you don't know what happens between them sheets. Like, she could have transformed 5 or 6 times.
I'm saying, we've seen it
throughout all of that. Look, we don't know if it's just when the Hulk gets angry. I'm just saying."
Might be when he gets horny too. We don't know. Nobody knows. We haven't seen horny Hulk yet.
I think it's a fun show, man. I think people have to relax, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode. I don't give a fuck. Honestly, that was probably my favorite episode of the season. Just in the way it ended, in the way that you have to watch, enjoy it. It's Hulk. It's She-Hulk, and you know what's making the season so enjoyable? These episodes are only half an hour, and I'm like really enjoying how like easily digestible the show is. I could just sit down, watch it. I don't have to like dedicate a huge amount of time to it. Look, and I'm coming off of having watched Stranger Things earlier this year, where there's literally a 2-hour episode. So it is a nice relief to just be able to sit down, have a half-hour show, get a good story, and then move on with my week.
Raw's 3 hours, Will Washington. I can't stand behind any of this.
It's basically like a sitcom. It's like a sitcom with Marvel characters in it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I might check it out. I like that description.
Shadaman Huda says, "Salute. Finally catching this live. Want to shout out fiance. Your boy just got engaged. Congratulations.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Congrats.
Yes, we're watching Extreme Rules tonight. She's a Bayley fan, and I'm Team EST.
Yeah. Big Bayley's winning tonight, buddy.
Yeah, Big Bayley's winning tonight.
Big Bayley's winning, buddy.
Brent says this no.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about Bound for Glory. Bound for Glory took place last night, and it was watched by one Philip Lindsey. Phil, you watched Bound for Glory.
I thought it was good. I thought that the parts of it that weren't good are going to be the parts that are going to be on Twitter the most, like the Bully Ray thing and, Kazarian winning. But Speedball versus Cass was very good. I didn't agree with the outcome of it, but the match itself was good. It was a very good opener. I thought the women's tag match was very good. I thought the other tag match was, it was kind of meh. But I thought for the most part, it was a good show. I thought the main event was good. I have no interest in Bully Ray challenging for a championship in 2022. I have no interest in some of the stuff that they're still doing with Honor No More. But other than that,
OGK retained, right?
Yep, they did.
And this was supposed to be, Maria was telling us that their contracts are coming up soon.
Contracts are coming up.
Contracts are up today.
Ooh.
Yeah, man, have to give a shout out to Mickie James. I feel like people kind of downplay the fact that Mickie has had a fantastic year at the beginning of the year in a Royal Rumble. And had a pretty decent run as Knockouts champion. I feel like the last rodeo stuff they're doing is really cool. I think the story they're telling with her now of her, going through all of these last opponents and having a story of her eking out these desperate wins over younger talent is cool. It's a good way to put over someone like Mia Yim. I thought the match of the night by far was Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovitch. They killed it. Jordan looks fantastic. Like her body transformation is like
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was, for the most part, it was a good pay per view.
Did Masha go over or Jordan went over?
Jordan won. And I feel like that's going to be unpopular with some people because Masha was on the undefeated streak. But I think that Jordan needed a signature win because I think when she was champion the first time, they immediately moved on to Deanna, and that first reign was kind of forgettable. And really, when you think about her other reigns, like even her tag reign wasn't that memorable. So I think she needed a signature win.
She needed a big win.
And I think this and the win to get the title and the wasn't it
Ultimate X? Was it Ultimate X?
No, it was
Queen of the
Mountain. Queen of the Mountain match.
Yeah.
I think even the Queen of the Mountain match, she had a great performance in that. So
it feels like with Masha, they're setting up. It feels like Killer Kelly came in at the same time, and her and Masha were kind of like on the exact same trajectory. Like they're trying to do the same things with both of them. And I think they're going to give it to Killer Kelly. That's why it happened.
Masha will be back. I think Masha will be fine. This loss doesn't hurt her at all because she looked incredible in this match. Like I think this was match of the night. But no, I'm not mad at Jordan getting a win.
Right.
I think it was a good win for Jessica and Taya as well. I'm a big fan of the rebranding of making her Jessica and doing a sick chant. I think that's one of the best rebrands of the year. It was a fun pay-per-view. It just happened to be on a night with a lot of other wrestling. And then the news stories that came out of it is like, what are you doing, Impact? What are you doing? Still booking Bully Ray.
Bully Ray's going to leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth, no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, even the Kazarian stuff, like, I think it's a good moment.
It's been 10 years since Aces and Eights, by the way. Like, it's not like Bully Ray is a character.
It's a whole different crop of Impact fans at this point.
Yeah, I don't want it. I mean, even the Kazarian stuff, like, I think it's a good moment for Frankie. But if you're going to build up Speedball to be this big obstacle, it would have been better if somebody on your roster beat him. But it is what it is.
It is interesting, by the way, now that if I had said to you 2 years ago that AEW guys are going to hold Ring of Honor titles and Impact titles while simultaneously maintaining all their own championships, that would have sounded insane.
It would have sounded crazy.
And now, you do have Frankie, who could potentially use that title anywhere.
Speaking of, I do think it's funny that a lot of those people, when Kenny was there, they were doing, how does this benefit AEW? How does this benefit this partnership? Impact's not getting anything out of this. Well, you see what they were getting out of it with Kenny not there. The biggest issue with that company is they don't have a real main event scene. I think a lot of the times the X Division stuff and the women's stuff really carries their shows. And that's not to say that Josh isn't a great champion. He is a great champion. But I don't feel like they have a guy that
he doesn't have any contenders.
Yeah, he doesn't have any contenders, and they don't have anybody that feels like a legitimate star that is the face of that company. And I think bringing in Bully Ray to make waves just proves that that's part of the problem. They need like legitimate main eventers.
But I mean, they need to invest more in the X Division guys, like you're saying. Like they had Speedball on the way, and then they take it away. I thought they were leading to the option C thing. It's like they always do things like that, and then the main event scene is just kind of lackluster, unfortunately. I think Josh Alexander's doing all he can to become that person that you're talking about, but I just don't think it's happened yet because Impact still doesn't have enough eyes on them. You know what I mean? Like people still don't believe.
It's really funny to think about it, but the last like legitimate star that was like, this is the main eventer that you guys have been waiting for was Tessa Blanchard.
Yeesh.
Nuts.
That's nuts. That feels like so long ago. Now, I saw somebody in the chat say that Impact needs a better TV deal.
They do.
They're part of a TV company, though, so we're going to have to ride this one out.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I don't think they're going to get a oh, okay. It's out there now. All right. So the thing that I was talking about this morning.
It's out now?
Yeah, I was saying something else big could be happening, but now it's out there. So okay, so I guess cat out of the bag that it is believed that Renee was also signed by AEW with alongside Moxley, and that was the thing. I said, hey, there might be more coming along, but you'll have to wait and see. Okay. I didn't think that would break during the show, but
yeah. Hey, I think
FightfulSelect.com for the rest of the details on that.
Hey, I think that's great if it happens. I think Renee has had a great trajectory since she's left WWE. I think her podcast is great. Not just saying it because my friend produces it. I think she's one of the best interviewers in the business. I think she's phenomenal. I think what she's doing with NFL looks like a great deal for her. And so, yeah, I do want to see her. Yeah, I do want to see her involved with another wrestling company, though. I think that
she brings a lot to the table.
Yeah, I think we're missing out by not having her as like a backstage interviewer or something. And I know that she is like down on her attempt at commentating, but I wouldn't be mad if she got another shot as a commentator.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we will see where that goes. Something told me yesterday, and that was kind of the prompt to look into it, was Moxley signing for 5 years. This is just my speculation, but I'm like, I can't help but wonder if he wants somebody on the road through those 5 years. So, but either way, she on her own merit.
She's phenomenal, regardless.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. There's so much she could bring to the table. So I'm just curious to see what that's all about.
Get them bags. Let's get a talking smack AEW talking smack off this bitch, man.
But the interesting thing about it is, as the story is reported, is that it's believed, and the people who believe it is WWE. WWE is under the impression, because WWE just did a whole bunch of
shuffling.
And they did a whole bunch of announce table shuffling, and they signed back Kathy Kelly, and there's a
it's like if they signed Kathy Kelly, you know that they called Renee.
That they called Renee.
Yeah.
We knew they called Renee, but it was a matter of, I guess WWE learned that in calling her, why can't we enter discussions? What's going on? And usually when that happens, they are of the belief that, oh, she's signed somewhere where we can't talk to her. Why is that the case? And so they are of that belief more than anybody else, and so that's essentially where this all got started.
She just went back for like a round table or something as well. Yeah, and so I think I'm sure that there were talks that stemmed from that as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of
that's
being
a
commentator
now, so. Forget what I said at the beginning of the show about holding on.
It came. It happened.
Yeah. So there's some more details around that stuff, but that's not in the Fightful story. So I'm not gonna put anything else out there unless. But yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say? Speaking of commentary.
I think the thing that Impact has improved miles on is their commentary. I think
I love Tom. He's
Tom is fantastic, and I think having Matt on with him as well, I think they're a very good commentating team.
Yes.
I enjoyed D'Lo when he was on, but I think that these two as commentary is
D'Lo and Matt Striker was crazy. I like this combination. This is one of the best combinations they've had in a long time.
You know what's great though is so like. You know, WWE has decided, and apparently this was a Hunter initiative, good, that they are going back to commentary duos. And that they are going to try and find the right combination, but they're not going to force anything. So basically, if a duo's not working, keep switching, which is good and bad. I feel like you got to give some guys time to really find themselves.
No one's gotten time on Raw in a while.
I know. Raw has changed commentary teams pretty much every year since 2013, I want to say.
Right.
And it's just kind of nuts that they haven't really been finding the right combination for Monday Night Raw. When you think about how long Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon were together, or you think about how long JR and Jerry the King Lawler were together, and you know, even Taz and Michael Cole was a prolific duo. You had who else? and Pat McAfee and Michael Cole were kind of starting to find their footing. Like, give these guys time. And WWE hasn't really been willing to give guys time to find each.
WWE's like, after 6 months, you're gone, you're out.
I did feel that one trio was clicking, that had the chemistry, and it was the one that WWE was most willing to flush down the toilet. And that was the trio of Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Corey Graves. I thought the three of them on SmackDown Live, perfect trio. I thought they were great together. I thought that they all complemented each other well. They were all doing well. And that was the one that they were the quickest to go, nah. Like, as soon as SmackDown Live came about, or as soon as SmackDown Live went to Fox and just became SmackDown, that was the one they were like, all three of you, get out of
they
here.
fucked up with Tom, man. I think Tom's tremendous. He could.
I
They
agree.
need to bring him back.
I agree. SmackDown Live was just such a
SmackDown Live was super fun, man. I love
great.
what they were doing for a while there. They just fucked it all up.
I love SmackDown Live's team, and I love SmackDown Live in general. You're right. And
SmackDown Live was just so much better.
it was a great time. It was a great time through SmackDown Live, especially like the roster that they had. Like 2017 wasn't a great year for them for sure because that was the Jinder Mahal year. But that 2016 stuff and all that stuff in 2018, great run for SmackDown.
AJ
Live.
Styles is killing it. Oh my god!
Somebody said nobody has made stealing a title look better than Jinder did when he ran off and jumped in a limo, and I laughed because I was like, "You're actually kind of right," because I thought that stuff was hilarious. Now, did it need to go into this long title run? Maybe not, but I thought the initial stuff around it of him taking the title and actually beating Randy at Backlash, I thought it was hilarious.
I mean, the greatest stealing title, of course, is from Phil when he put the title in his fridge, though. Like, you can't beat that.
I mean, there's stuff like that. There's Rock stealing Austin's belt and throwing it in the river.
And hey, we just got a new one because Nyla Rose just stole the TBS title from Jade Cargill.
Nyla, get
last
that
night.
championship. She's not going to get that championship, but we love Nyla Rose.
The way she ran out of there was hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, I'm seeing some people in the chat might be on the right track on things, but I'm not going to say anything else. But
What, that Jinder sucked? I ain't Jinder.
No, not that. So the we got a pay-per-view tonight. Premium live event.
PLE.
Looks really good.
It does.
We've got Extreme Rules.
I don't know why they won't give Bobby Lashley a fucking match, but yeah, let's continue.
I mean, well, I will say that because
I have a theory why.
Well, they've got the season premiere of Raw happening this Monday, and that card in itself is feeling pay-per-view like. I think he's going to lose the title to Seth on Monday.
I think so too.
And so, in the meantime, which is good, honestly. I think that Seth needs a championship. I think with the United States title kind of becoming the top title on Raw, who better than Seth Rollins to be that guy?
Bring back open challenges.
Yeah. I kind of don't agree.
Okay. Do tell. I want to hear.
I kind of don't agree. When you watch the Ariel interview, I think a lot of people took very interesting sound bites from it. A lot of people really ran with that wins and losses don't matter. I think in the context of where he said it, it made sense though. But one of the themes I took away is it seems like Seth is pretty frustrated. And I took that away from several points in his interview when he was saying that he never felt like he was the guy. He felt like even when Helwani asked him, was there any point where you felt like they were giving you all of the run and they were making you the guy? And he said no. And he said even when you were champion the first time, he was like no. He was like, I felt like I was always just a placeholder until Roman was ready. And I think that that's pretty true. And he said even when he went away because he had leukemia, I still felt like a part of it was like, this isn't my moment. It was just, I'm only getting this moment because he's not here. And I think that's fair. And you could feel the frustration in it. And the other part of it is when you look at his WrestleMania track record for the last 3 years, all of those matches are him putting guys over. KO in 2020, Cesaro last year, and Cody this year. There's nobody that is in the top of the company that is considered a main eventer that has been as selfless as this guy for the last 2 years. He's been doing everything to help other guys get over. This entire year, he's been taking losses to get guys over. And so I feel like what's going to happen is he's going to lose to Riddle tonight. And I feel like the consolation prize is they're going to put the U.S. title on him. And I don't feel like they would do that with anybody else that's considered what he is to that company. They would never do that to Brock. They would never do that to Roman. And I think that the problem here is, again, like I said, I don't want to be a broken record, but Raw needs a world title. It does. And I feel like the fact that this guy is not world champion is a disservice. And I mean, I don't think it'll be bad that he'll be a mid-card champion, but I could see why he would look at this like, come on, man. Like, out of everything, nobody has waved the flag for this company harder than he has. And that's what you give him as a U.S. title run? No, I don't want it. And I'm not saying that he doesn't want it, but that's kind of how I feel for him.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We shall see. I just hope he gets a good run being the top. Obviously, he's not going to get past Roman. And
No, absolutely not. But you could definitely feel the frustrations, man.
Right.
And at first I thought like I was just reading too much into it, but the further you listen to the interview, I'm like, yeah, no, he's frustrated.
Well, we are going to see tonight 6 matches. That's it. They didn't add any more. Good. Don't add any more. Now, I know people will go, hey, don't you defend big AEW cards? Like, yeah, we get 4 of those a year. Mm-hmm. I get these once a month.
There's going to be another one of these in 3 weeks. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. So I'm good on having a whole bunch happening because you're simultaneously building to Crown Jewel while building this. So, like, we know. But we got Brawling Brutes versus Imperium in a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. That's probably going to be dope.
Yeah.
We love pretty much every guy involved here. I feel
Gunther
like
went over last night, right? I did the last.
He did.
Okay.
They did a really odd finish for it, but it was a good match. I think that the match at Clash was better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like everything they're doing with both of these trios. I think Imperium looks great. That thing they do where Walter takes off his coat and like rolls it back, and then Ludwig like whirls it up and puts it in his arm. It's one of the smoothest things I've ever seen. I don't know how they do it, but it looks great every time they do it.
Yeah, that match should bang tonight for sure.
Edge facing Finn Balor. I quit.
God, Edge. I quit match. Fucking boring.
Finn's got to win this match, man. I'm sorry, but I feel like Edge should be doing what they have Rollins doing. He should be putting guys over, and I feel like Finn is a guy that should be getting put over at this point in his career. I feel like if you have Edge win here, it kind of ruins the trajectory that Judgment Day is on, and I think Judgment Day needs to get far away from Edge. I think they need to. I think they need to create their own identity. Yeah, I think Finn needs to
It'd
win.
be very bad here if Edge wins for Judgment Day. Of him being like, "Oh, I was right. I did kick all their asses in there." Yeah, no, they can't.
Yeah, this is my thing, and I beat your guy that you chose over me. Like that'd be horrible.
Yeah, they can't.
I'm going over really quickly the history of I Quit matches in WWE. Just looking at them to see how correct
suck.
I am. Well, more than anything, I'm trying to see if there was ever a time where there was a babyface that WWE believed in that just quit. You know, because like Mankind, they did the recording that that The Rock had played, which was clever at the time. There was the Triple H and The Rock where Kane was about to chokeslam China, and then Hunter had to quit to save China. Foley quit to save Melina that one time. The only babyface that like straight up lost an I Quit match, which to be fair, Vince on this particular person was Rey Mysterio. Vince had no problem. Like, there's a lot of revisionist history on Rey Mysterio that really just goes back to like 2018.
Yeah.
Where people are like, yeah, WWE's always done right by Rey Mysterio. And like, no, it's really just like the 2018 run. But like his 2 title runs, they literally let Jack Swagger drag him around like a baby. And he was world champion and just dragged him around the arena while he's kicking and screaming. And they had Great Khali squash him. He
won the championship, and then Cena won it at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Rey Mysterio did lose an I Quit match. Clean as a babyface to Chavo Guerrero. So, like, they're not very... It's not usual that they would let a babyface lose an I Quit match without there being some kind of shenanigans. Like, if Beth gets involved and then somebody's, like, standing on
That's
Beth's
where it
neck.
feels like it's leading to some...
Yeah, if they do something along those lines. Otherwise, I see Finn just losing.
Yeah, that would suck. I hope that's not where we're going. I think Finn's got to win.
Right.
We've got Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's title in a ladder match against Bayley.
This is an interesting one.
First ever singles women's ladder match.
I'm curious.
Ever in WWE
in
history?
Main roster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Main roster. I'm curious, what did you guys think of Raw? I thought this was the worst Raw since Triple H took over. I get what they're trying to do because there is no world title there. So they have to put something in the main event. And the Bayley stuff with Bianca is the main story on Raw right now. So a lot of the times the women have main evented Raw. But I feel like they're main eventing with pretty uninteresting women's matches. And that's not...
Well, hold on. This is a little bit of a trick that WWE likes to do because they did this in previous years. During football season, their thing is to put shit in the main event that they don't actually care about, right? Because they did this with the Cruiserweights. Right. Remember when the Cruiserweights were main eventing Raw?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look, the Cruiserweights are main eventing Raw. But at the same time, those segments were tanking. But at least they weren't tanking the stuff that they actually cared about against the NFL. Like, I feel like they threw the towel in on the third hour this week because...
Yeah, I agree.
Because, one, they didn't even announce EO versus Alexa until 9 minutes into the third hour. Like, that was very clear that as far as the third hour was concerned, they pretty much were like washing our hands of this.
God. So
we know this.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Hey, Chad, I know that the Raw Women's Championship is a world title. They're not main eventing the show with Bianca defending the title as world champion. They're putting stuff like EO versus Alexa in the main event. That's what I'm talking about. I know that it's a world title, guys.
Yeah, well, I will say this, though. I think having all the other titles merged and not the women's titles is actually diluting the women's titles now. Because now those feel like half a championship when you have one complete world championship on the men's side. You have one complete tag team champion on the men's side. You have one complete women's tag champions on the men's side. But now you have half a champion on as far as the women's titles are concerned. That's an issue that I feel like they kind of have to address, mainly because of the fact that the Raw Women's title is feeling huge. Raw Women's title feels like the title of the company. Bianca feels like, look, I thought that segment with her and Bayley, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked Bianca. I like that Bayley has had some pretty standard stuff to say. She's had some pretty standard complaints, stuff that people have thrown at Cena for years. But Bianca's had comebacks that Cena never had. And I have liked a lot of that stuff with her. She feels like the champ. Liv does not. And so... But to the point of where Bianca appeared on SmackDown last week on a show that Liv's also on. Mm-hmm. Like, Bianca works both shows. Liv doesn't work both shows. Right. So now it feels like you have one women's title and one women's title. Mm-hmm. And maybe by the end of Extreme Rules, when they have the SmackDown Women's Champion they want, that'll change things. But for now, I do think Bayley walks out of this show with the women's title.
Raw's Women's Championship.
Especially considering it's a ladder match. I think you have Bayley in a position to
Bianca doesn't have to get pinned. Yeah.
Bianca doesn't have to get pinned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is the time to do it.
I hope they don't merge the women's titles. I think that would be a bad idea. I think that at this point they have too many women on a roster to make it the one women's title and a tag title. I don't believe that they care enough about those tag titles for me to believe that they will book them consistently. No. And I think if they're going to do that, they should just go the route of having a main women's title and having like a workers title, have a white title.
So this is what I'm saying. I say that the two women's titles, because you have one that feels like a world title and you have one that feels secondary. And so to me, I agree. Was it Raquel who just said it this week that she wants to see a women's intercontinental title? Yeah, you have a women's intercontinental title, and that
bring the Divas Championship back. Stop playing Butterfly, baby. That could be the secondary championship, the Divas Championship.
But look, you do the women's intercontinental title, then all of a sudden there wouldn't be a whole lot of argument over whether or not Liv feels like a world champion, and then you do have a women's world champion in what Bianca's doing.
Yeah, because if you merge those titles, you know what they're going to do. If they have the choice of Bianca and Ronda, they're picking Ronda. And so that's what I'm afraid of if they merge.
I don't know. Bianca, you know what? I think they
come on.
No, but look, she is homegrown. I think they do really love the fact that they can claim everything about Bianca, and it's worked. That's very
Ronda,
rare.
Big dog, Ronda Rousey.
That is all true, but it's Ronda Rousey. You know
Ronda
they're picking
Rousey.
Ronda. You know it. And
come on. That's another match we are seeing. Extreme Rules, SmackDown Women's title on the line. Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey.
Has Liv got any of her heat back at all?
I think that she has, actually.
Yeah.
I think that the build to this match has actually been good, honestly.
Okay.
I think the table spot that Liv did a few weeks ago was great.
That was pretty hot. I like that.
I think that the having Ronda come out with have the match, and then Liv came out with the bat, and that the pull apart brawl they had, I think all that stuff was good. Okay. Now, I do feel like the further we've got into this reign, that it's very apparent to me that Liv's title reign was a vehicle to help Ronda get over again.
Very apparent.
It's very obvious to me that that's what they did. They took the title off of her and made her seem like the underdog to get people on their side. And I think she's going to turn tonight. I think she is going to cheat to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Shayna helps her win. I think that's where we're going. But either way, Ronda will be champion by the end of the night.
Definitely.
We're just hours away from either being very right or very wrong. So we will also see Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross. I don't care who wins this.
Yeah, this one's cold to me. I'm not.
It's a strap match. Karrion is cold. Karrion is not working.
Not for me.
I am actually.
Man. He's kind of holding Drew down too, if we're keeping it real. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I actually don't think that he is. I think that Drew is fine. I just think that this is going to be one of those things. He's going to beat him and he's going to move on. I think that Kross is winning tonight, and I think Drew's just going to move on to next week.
Right.
Yeah, this is.
I hope they don't drag it out. I don't make this all right, well, he wants his rematch after this. Don't drag this feud on too long. Just give Kross the win and move on.
Right.
And finally, Daniel Cormier, a special guest referee. We are going to see a fight pit match, which has always been a thing that delivers. Matt Riddle going one-on-one with Seth freaking Rollins. Matt has to win this one, I think.
I think he's going to win.
With the stipulation, he has to.
But then the U.S. title's on the line to the very next, or 2 nights later.
This is what makes it so weird, because I think he's going to lose and he's going to win Monday. It just...
Yeah, I think so too.
I just don't get why they're booking him this way. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I really like the stuff they've done with him and Riddle. I think since taking that match off of SummerSlam, which again goes to my theory of why he was frustrated, because at one point Seth was Mr. SummerSlam. He had great SummerSlam matches. And to just come back in with a new regime, and a new regime immediately goes, hey, we're taking you off SummerSlam, buddy. And it's like, I'm not wrestling on one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year when I have produced all year. Yeah, I would have been mad. And so I think he's going to win. I think the story of them, not only Cormier being a Rollins fan and then them mimicking the Cormier split screen interview earlier this year, I think it's a cool way to bring Cormier in.
Right.
And I think Cormier is probably going to help Riddle win.
Yeah. Hey, Brent says, has Finn ever recovered from jobbing out to the top rope? Feels like
Not
he
really.
hasn't.
He hasn't.
No, not really.
They've done Finn so wrong.
No, and the worst part about that was the story at the time was they called Finn up to the main roster back from NXT where he was doing quite well because he was needed on the main roster. He comes in, immediately feuds with Roman, loses to the fucking top rope, and then gets sent to Raw.
So
that was
fucking lame.
Awful.
That was so bad. No, I am not. Look, we have to do like a retrospective on how bad the last year of Vince McMahon was, because like that shit was fucking awful. And I don't and there were people like making dead excuses for all of it. And
yes,
like,
there was.
Especially now that the show is quite enjoyable. I like WWE television that I'm watching right now. But like, let's be honest about that last year of Vince. It was fucking
bad.
awful.
It
was
watching.
like
it was
very
bad.
like irredeemably bad
I
stuff.
stopped watching WWE for the first time in fucking 30 years. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it.
Like you can even say maybe the last 2 years, but at least one of those years can be excused as it's COVID. They're trying new things. But like that last year in front of fans, where they were like, "Hey, let's just throw fake reactions out
the
there."
The Queen's Crown tournament. Oh God.
What?
Oh my goodness.
We got to be honest about that final year of Vince. It was so bad. But Leonard Aaron says. Seth's interview with Ariel makes a very open and shut case for why next year's Mania should be Seth Roman once and for all. Let these two tear it down with Seth getting his moment beating Roman.
And he's not going to get his moment because you know what they're going to do. Either they're going to give the moment to Roman versus Rock, or
where Roman just wins. That's the only problem I have with that is that it ain't like Rock at 50. By the way, you know Roman is this fact just hit me as Roman was making his entrance. But Roman is just shy of the same age Rock was when he returned for the feud with Cena.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
like Roman's late 30s. He's I don't know. We're approaching kind of those, like when people say Roman's the next Rock. Like I could see him maybe getting like some Hollywood roles, but the fact is like Rock moved on at like 30. Rock was like.
Roman about to move on too.
Rock moved on at like 30. Roman is, what, 30? I think he turns 38 coming up this year. Like,
yeah, I think he's 37.
37, yeah, he's 37.
But oh my God, this leads even more to my point of why Rollins might be frustrating. Like, yo, you did not lose that match at Royal Rumble. You did not lose that match. You did not get pinned or submitted. And you look around and Logan fucking Paul is getting a title match, and he has wrestled all of 2 matches for the company, and you have been killing it all year.
And it's at one of the biggest paydays that the company.
Yeah,
crazy big payday.
And I think in his mind he just knows he's not getting that WrestleMania match. It's gonna be Rock versus Roman, or it's gonna be Cody, and he knows it.
And the thing about the Logan Paul stuff. So like last night was an embarrassing night for Logan, and that so he comes out, they play the fake cheers over his theme music, and it sounds canned, like it sounds almost like it's attached to the music, and then when the music stops, crowd is chanting Logan sucks, and Roman covers for it. Roman was great here. Roman talking about, hey, don't listen to them, they were doing that to me just a couple years ago, and now I'm the GOAT. And I thought that was a great line. But then they put the mic back in Logan, and then Paul Heyman was off here. And like,
This was a bad Heyman promo, bro. Let's be honest, it was a bad Heyman promo.
Like name dropping and Ben Shapiro and like name dropping all the stuff he was doing. That wasn't working at all. And bad. Like, yeah, I tend to forget because like WWE does a pretty decent job of making sure that guys, especially main roster guys, aren't vocal about this stuff. But like Paul was a pretty like vocal right wing guy. Before he resigned in 2012. But like for those years beforehand, he was very much for the years he was unemployed by WWE and he was just online and running that Heyman Hustle account. Like he was vocal. And I forget about that. And I didn't think this worked. I also did not think that I don't know how you guys felt about Logan here, but I thought he was bad. And
Logan had a weird week. He had his promo he tried to cut on why Bad Bunny is bad from getting tax exemption from his home country. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? That was awful. And I thought the segment wasn't very good either. I thought Sami Zayn saved the segment.
Sami Zayn saved it. That's where I was going with it. When Sami came around, it was great. Sami is stealing all of this. He was phenomenal.
He's on fire.
He was great.
He's right into that role. Yes, Logan Paul, this is not the position to put him in. That's obvious to see that. Going promos with Roman and Paul Heyman and Sami Zayn, that's not the position That's not how you set this guy up.
Are we supposed to root for Logan here?
Right.
I don't want to root for Logan. If Roman is the heel here, Logan is not making me want to root for him. Right. Yeah, this feels like, well, I can't say what it really feels like because people might not like my opinion. But I just don't care for the way they're setting up this match. I think the match will probably be good, but I just don't care about it.
Yeah. Brent Lockman says, hearing the name Jordan Peterson on Fox isn't shocking, but in wrestling, oh no.
Yeesh.
Again, like I said, it was something.
You see why we don't need it when it happens, and you're like, oh yeah, I see why that's not in wrestling because it's nasty.
And then trying to call out Ben Shapiro to like, hey, come appear on the show. Like,
please don't. Ben.
God,
we don't want to see you.
Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Let's see. Last one we're reading for the day, because it's only just afternoon. Shot Kid says, for Grapsody, if that AEW women's show happens, announce team could be Renee and Veda with either Excalibur or Ian.
Veda needs to get signed to a contract. She's amazing. Veda Scott is a great women's
she is great.
She has met my daughter Veda, by the way, and they gave the Millhouse moment of
double Vedas.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
the two of them have come face to face, and it was cool. I was like, hey, Veda Scott, meet my daughter Veda Washington.
Man, speaking of women's stuff for AEW, I thought that the women's stuff was tremendous this week. I thought I thought the match was very good on Monday. I thought the segment that they did was a little bit awkward, but I thought the payoff of it of Paige Saraya actually getting physical was worth it. And I thought Willow,
she's clear.
Willow looked amazing.
I thought Willow versus Jade was very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a reason that in the center of the graphic for today's episode, there's Willow Nightingale, and that is how we're going to wrap this show, is that this is Willow's week, all right? Willow got the victory. She got a pin over Penelope Ford,
Penelope looked tremendous too.
My dude Booker T, I am afraid for him calling the names of new people that he's never seen before. Oh man,
they got some wild names over there.
Because Booker T being like Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford. I don't know who this Penelope Ford is. I see a man and a woman both have long hair. I don't know which one is Penelope.
We're gonna have a great time.
It is Shucky Ducky. NXT is the minor leagues.
I can't wait to see him calling on commentary. But no, yes, Miss Penelope being pinned by Willow Nightingale was great. She, Willow has kind of been in these matches, and you kind of feel like, she's going to be the fall person in it. And so for her to not only not be the fall person, but get the win, and it was a great moment. You see the look on her face. It's actually the cover photo for this episode. The look on her face was priceless. It was amazing. Everybody celebrating. And then on top of that, we get to learn that Saraya is clear. And as soon as she interacted with Britt, that was great stuff. And...
yeah, I'm assuming that's the Full Gear match, maybe?
I'm pretty sure it's the Full Gear match. And look, I know people are like, well, then they're just casting Jamie to the side. No. I don't think so. I was like, think of this more along the lines of, put Saraya in the role of CM Punk, coming back after many years off. Put Britt in the role of MJF. Mm-hmm. And then I would then look at, as a template here, look at Jamie kind of in the role of Wardlow, in that she's still the backup here, but at some point she can find the way to break away from Britt and give you the payoff you're hoping for. But this is the right match for Saraya to start with. It absolutely is.
Speaking of Max, I have to begrudgingly say that Max looked great this week. He's in phenomenal shape.
God.
That opening match was amazing.
I hate to say this, but he looked phenomenal.
He was great.
Man. Oh my God, he was on fire.
He looked great. Everything he's done since he's been back has been tremendous as well. But yeah, I think that this was definitely Willow's week. I think she had a really competitive match last night. I know that some people were like, "Oh, well, she didn't win, so it was for nothing." I don't agree with that. I thought it made her look great. I thought this was the most that it seemed like Jade had to fight to get a win in a while. So I thought it was good.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I thought, and see, that's the story I'm hoping they tell, because I still feel like Willow can be the one to beat Jade. But that ultimately, if Jade had to struggle a little bit to get past Willow, and so the first win was kind of short, the one at Road Rager. The first one was fairly short. Jade got the victory. Second one was a longer match, one of Jade's longer matches, but Jade still got the victory. Third time, though. Third time is where I do it. So,
Yeah.
And I guess last one, and then we got to get out of here. Lee says, Booker T is going to discover Nikita Lyons and Gigi Dolan, and all hell will break loose.
My
shuck it,
goodness.
duck it, quack, quack. Oh, my goodness.
Nikita Lyons is in my fave 5.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh
Please,
my
no.
god. Booker T, this is where we go. Somebody in the chat's asking, where's Ruby So? She broke her nose at All Out, and she just had
She is
surgery
out
this
with
week.
an injury. Yeah, good luck to Ruby, man. I can't wait till she gets back. That is one of those that should be the face-off, Ruby versus Paige at some point, Paige against Saraya at some point.
Well, there's a lot we can do here now. So,
Yeah.
all right. Let's get out of here. Let's thank everybody who was a part of Grapsody. Don't forget to check out everything happening on Fightful. There's a lot of content happening on Fightful. You've got Denise today reviewing Bound for Glory. You have got the Extreme Rules post-show coming up with Denise and Sean. Lots of Denise here, right? Because I was also going to say tomorrow I will be live with Denise doing After the Week on her YouTube channel, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. Help get her subscribers up. We enjoy doing that show. It's a whole lot of fun. There's just content here today. So check out everything we're doing here on Fightful. And that's it.
Appreciate y'all. Hey, catch me at West Coast Pro tonight. West Coast Pro Wrestling. West Coast. You know where to find it.
You're not going to be at home watching WWE?
Oh, God, no.
No, come on, man. You got to be home for your Bray reaction. We're waiting for
the final question, is what's Bray Wyatt going to do? Because we did get the hint of all hints. Pretty much said, look, guys, this is Bray Wyatt. They pretty much just said it last night. They dropped an image, which is also in our screenshot.
Huskus the pig.
That's gonna be the talk of Extreme Rules. I think is the return of Bray Wyatt.
Definitely.
And the question is, for me, what is Bray going to bring to the table? What do we do rivalry-wise? Who is ready for a feud with Bray right now?
I don't know. But I'm excited to see it. I have missed Bray Wyatt. I'm glad he's coming back. I'm curious to see what he does tonight. If anything, it's got buzz. It has people excited for it. So I think it's a good thing. I was a little bit afraid that we were never going to hear his WWE theme again, which is fantastic. And so
they just put it back up on streaming services. So anyway, folks, for Philip Lindsey, for Righteous Reg, I'm Will Washington. Washington. That's my name.
Washington.
We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Peace.